Alright guys, so in this video I want to tell you how you can achieve and unlock your first ever pull-up. Now I first started going to the gym about 5 years ago, and I remember I think this was the first ever time that I stepped into a gym. I always used to go to this gym which was like a 5 minute walk away from my school, and I always used to go with my friends after school. And I remember this time, I think it was like the first time I've been to a gym. I walked over to the pull-up bar and I couldn't even do a single pull-up. And now I can do 15 plus pull-ups. I do weighted pull-ups, and pretty much all I do now is calisthenics. And in this video I want to tell you very specific exercises which allowed me to go from zero pull-ups to my first pull-up, and then how I was able to increase my number of pull-ups over these years. Now the first exercise, and probably the most important exercise of the list, are dead hangs. Now, the reason why I'm saying dead hangs is the most important exercise which allowed me to even achieve my first pull-up is because it improved my grip strength. Now, I remember when I first started doing calisthenics, and this was about a year ago. At the time, I wasn't really into calisthenics. Like, I was doing some pull-ups and dips during my workouts, but my main focus was getting big, and my main focus was bodybuilding. So just lifting weights, going to the gym. And so bear in mind, at the time I used to do a bro split. So one day I would train chest, the other day I would train back, another day I would train legs. So my back was pretty strong. Like overall, I was very strong at the time. And last year, when I started doing calisthenics, I was only able to do 4 pull-ups, whereas on the lat machine, I was actually pulling a lot of weight. Now, the reason why I was only able to do 4 pull-ups, even though I was pretty strong, is because my grip strength was terrible. Like I remember when I was on the pull-up bar, I could do like 4 pull-ups, and then my fingers would literally slide away from the bar. And I knew that in me, I had at least another 5 pull-ups. But because my grip strength was very weak and I couldn't hold on to the bar for long, that meant that I couldn't do more than 4 pull-ups in a row, even though I knew that my back was strong enough to probably even do 10 pull-ups. Most of you guys can probably relate. Like you're doing pull-ups and then all of a sudden your fingers are literally sliding away from the bar, but you know you have more in you. And that is because your grip strength is very weak. So first exercise is dead hangs. Now dead hangs are not only good for your grip strength, but they're pretty much good for your overall body as well. Because when you dead hang, you want to like keep your core tight. You want to make sure that your full body is extending, you're breathing fully, and you're pretty much mimicking the first, like the step zero of a pull-up. And that's why dead hangs are probably my favorite exercise, which I still do to this day in order to increase my number of pull-ups, because as I said before, it improves your grip strength, and when you engage your core, you're preventing it from swinging, and it's literally step zero of a pull-up. So dead hangs are 100% a mandatory exercise if you want to achieve your first pull-up. Now, if dead hangs were the first phase of the pull-up, so literally phase zero, phase one are scapular retractions. And guys, when I started doing them, I've noticed a huge difference. So scapular retractions, you're basically hanging, you're basically doing a dead hang, but instead of doing a pull-up, you're basically doing the first phase of the pull-up. So without bending your arms, or without bending your elbows, all you're doing is you're basically like activating your scapulars, and you're bringing your chest towards the bar, and that's a scapular retraction, and is phase one of the pull-up. And I recommend you guys do a lot of sets of these because it's going to strengthen your back, and it's going to actually allow you to learn pull-ups the correct way. I'm not going to talk a lot about this exercise, but as you can see, this is how you do it. Make sure that your chest is going towards the bar, is looking at the bar, and you're not bending your arms and you're not bending your elbows. So yeah, this is exercise number 2, which is an absolute game changer if you want to learn how to do your first pull-up. Exercise number 3 is by using assisted bands. Now with assisted bands, all you're doing a pull-up but assisted, so it's going to be easier for you to do it. And there's different type of bands. You can use a heavier one all the way to a more lighter one as well, depending on your level. And basically the reason why I love assisted bands is because you're literally doing a pull-up. You're doing a pull-up, but you're doing it assisted. You could also do this using the machine at the gym. You know, there is that machine which mimics a pull-up. But the reason why I prefer assisted bands is because with assisted bands, you actually are performing with the right technique because your legs are straight. And whereas if you were going to use the machine at the gym, your legs would be crossed behind your back, and that's not really how you do a pull-up, because you want to learn how to do a pull-up the correct way. And the correct way is by engaging your core, your legs are straight, your thumb is outward and not inward. But most importantly, your legs are straight. And the reason why assisted bands are a lot better than machines in the gym is because they teach you the correct way of doing a pull-up. So by keeping your leg straight and not crossed behind your back. So use assisted bands, start with a heavy one and then make your way down and progressive overload all the way to the lighter one. And then when you're ready to go without an assisted bands, then go ahead and try your first pull-up. And as you guys have seen, I'm literally going in order. So the first step that you need to do are dead hangs, then you're going to move on to scapular retractions, and then that's when you're going to bring in the assisted bands, and you're actually going to do a full pull-up but assisted. So a very important thing that I want to say is that with those three first exercises that I told you, so dead hangs, scapular tractions, and pull-ups with assisted bands or the machine at the gym, is that you actually treat them like proper exercises. You don't just do them, for example, after you work out, because like if you actually want to learn how to do a pull-up, if you actually want to increase your number of pull-ups, you actually need to take them very seriously. It's like, for example, you're doing a bench press and you're just doing it at the end of the workout because that's when you feel like doing it, and you're not tracking the weight, you're just not really bothered. Like if you actually want to get your first pull-up, you need to understand that it's hard. It's really, really hard. It's not like doing a push-up, it's not like doing a dip. Doing a full clean pull-up, it's quite hard, it's quite difficult. I mean, at least for me it was difficult. Maybe for some of you guys it wasn't at first, but for me it was quite difficult. So the best thing probably the most important advice of the video is that you actually take it seriously and you track those exercises. For example, if on day one you can do a dead hang for 30 seconds, write it down. Maybe next week you can do it for like 45 seconds, write it down again. Eventually, if you're tracking your progress and you're doing things right, eventually you will be able to do a pull-up. Same thing with, for example, with the pull-ups using assisted bands. Like if you can, for example, if you're using like the green band, so the heaviest band, and you can do 5 pull-ups, write it down. Get a lighter band and track down how many pull-ups you're doing. So treat these exercises like actual gym exercises, not just something that you do after your workout. Make sure that you're consistent with them. Now, an extra tip that I wanted to give you, apart from those exercises that I mentioned before, if you're carrying extra fat, that's definitely not helpful if you want to achieve your first pull-up. If you're carrying extra fat, it's like you're doing weighted pull-ups. So a very important advice that I want to give you is that if you're carrying extra fat, extra pounds, really focus on losing that fat. Really focus on losing those extra kilos that you're carrying, because you're just adding extra weight to your body, and that's going to make it harder for you to do your first pull-up. Now, I really wanted to say this at the end of this video. I don't want to sound like an asshole, but this is very, very important, because it sounds a little bit harsh, but the bigger you are, the more fat you have, the harder it's going to be to pull yourself all the way above the bar. So make sure that you keep this in mind, keep training, keep eating well, and eventually you will be able to do your first pull-up. Guys, thank you so much for watching this video. I really hope it was helpful, and I'll see you on the next video. Thank you so much for watching.